Alright, so what is up guys? In the previous session we learned about what are services, functions of services such as input began, player added and so on. So in this session we'll be learning about what are tables. I've written three questions here. What are tables? How do we use tables? When do we use tables? So what are tables? Tables are sort of data structures which are used for storing multiple values inside of a single variable. If you were to create variable, it'll be somewhat like this: local a equals to 5, local b equals to 10. So instead of creating two variables, I can just write it in a single variable, and I will name it as local table equals to 5 comma 10. So this is an array. It's a type of a table, and what it does is that it stores multiple variable values as I've written here. So how do we use it? We initialize it with using the local keyword followed by these parameters, parenthesis, my bad, flower brackets, you can say it as, and then you can put some values inside of this. You can even put string values. Let me say hi. You can even put boolean values. Let me put it as true and whatsoever. So remember, this is an array. Okay, so there are three types of tables, namely array, dictionary and mixed, which mixed is both dictionary and array. So in the future video I'll be explaining what a dictionary. For now we're going to be only studying about arrays. If I were to get the value of 10 here from this table, I'll be writing table, print table, bracket 2. Okay, so what it does is that, let me run this. So it says 10. So what it does is that it checks this 2 is actually the position of the element that we are checking from this dictionary, from this array. So what Roblox understands is that 5, the position of 5 is 1, 10 is 2, this string hi is 3, and this boolean true is 4. So if I were to print, let's say true, I would just do table bracket 4. Okay, because it's in the 4th position. So it starts from 1 and the last one is whatever. If I were to run this, it will say true. Another thing to keep in mind is that this true is not a string. Okay, it's a boolean. So if I were to check what type of data type it is, in my second video I've explained what are data types, so kindly check that out. It says boolean here. Okay, so that's basically it for the basics of tables. Next we'll be learning about what are functions of tables. So let me put it as table. If I were to insert a value inside of the table, I will use the insert function, insert, and then followed by the name of the table. So here I'm putting in the table. Alright, so here I've renamed the table as new array because it's an array. I've renamed it every single way. So if I were to insert a value instead of this new array, I'll be using the function called table.insert new array and followed by the data. So if I were to put an int value, I'll be putting 4. If I were to put a string value, it'll be string like this. Or if I were to put a boolean, it'll be like this. Or let's say a decimal point 5.0 like this. So let me just put it as 3. And if I were to print new array, so as you can see in this output, it gives us a arrow here and arrow here. So if I were to click on this arrow, it will say all the elements inside of this array. So it says this 1 is actually the position of the first element, and the first element is 5 as I've written here. 2 is the position of 10, and hi is at the position of 3, true is at the position 4, 3 is at the position 5. And this 3 is not written here. The reason why it shows 3 is because I've inserted from using the function called table.insert. So if I were to remove the value 3, I'll be using table.remove. And keep in mind that you cannot just put new array comma 3. You can't do that for some reason. So what it says in this parameters is that it says remove t pause number. So this pause is actually position and this position is a number. So we are supposed to put the index of the element which we are supposed to put here. So if I were to put 3 and let's say print new array, let me just remove this or put in comments. And if I were to click this, it says 5, 10, true, 3. So what here it has removed is this hi, the string hi. So let's say if I don't know the index or the position of the element that I want to remove, I'll be using something called as table.find. All right, let's say I don't know the index of the element which I want to remove. So in order to find the index of the element, I'll be using the function called table.find. And what this table.find gives is that it returns the position of the element that we're trying to check. So let's say new array 10, and if I were to print this, you can print it because it returns a number. And if I were to run this, it says 2. Again, the reason why it says 2 is because the element 10 is at the position 2. So we can use this exact same function. If I were to just copy and paste it instead of the table.remove, what this will do is that instead of me having to type the index or the position of the element that I want to remove, it will automatically find the index or the position of that element which I want to remove and then put in the table.remove function. So let's say I want to remove 3 because here I've inserted the value of 3. Alright, so here I'll be running the code. It says 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, high, true. So here I've removed the element 3, and that's why it doesn't print 3. Alright, so summarizing what we learned in this video, we learned what are tables, how do we use tables, when do we use tables. So what are tables? Tables are type of data structures which hold several values or data inside of a single variable. So here the single variable I've created is new array. How do we use it? Using the local keyword as well as followed by the parameters, parentheses in both the sides. When do we use it? We use it when, let's say, we have a lot of data to collect inside of a variable and we can't keep track of how many variables we have created in the script. So that's why we use arrays, and that's basically it. So if you guys have any doubts or whatsoever, queries or whatsoever, kindly reach out to me in the comment section. Till then, stay safe. Bye bye.